My name's Thompson. I'm CHRO of Love's Travel Stops, and I'm really excited to be here today to talk to WorkStep co-founders Dan and Justin about their vision for the future of frontline employee engagement. How WorkStep is helping to make the vision a reality and the exciting times ahead for them in 2025 and beyond. So, for today's conversation, what we're going to do is really take a step back and take a look at why WorkStep was founded and how the product has evolved over time. And then we're going to migrate into this year and how WorkStep is building solutions to help solve for the challenges of the future in regards to people, because of course that's what's on mine and a lot of other CHROs' minds. And finally, we'll talk about WorkStep's vision for the future of frontline engagement. So before we jump into those items, what I'd like to do is really start with introductions. Dan, would you like to start?
Yeah, thanks, Les. And I really appreciate you hosting this conversation. My name's Dan Johnston. I'm the co-founder and CEO at WorkStep. I founded this company based on my own experience in retail and supply chain and really seeing an opportunity to build an ally for a segment of the workforce population that we saw as being increasingly in need of one. Now, our mission as a company is to make the frontline a better place to work. And we do that by building the most modern and powerful AI-powered employee engagement solution on the market. Now I'll kick it over to the man who has been in the trenches with me on that mission since day one and let Justin introduce himself.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks, Les, for moderating today. I'm Justin Butler. I'm the CTO and Dan's co-founder at WorkStep. A little bit about my background. I met Dan in the education tech space. And at that time, he was aware of my background in statistics, and we started getting pretty interested in the state of the workforce, doing deep quantitative dives on mobility and preparedness, satisfaction, etc. And it wasn't long before actually we were building some partnerships with large enterprises to start looking at these themes from the inside as well as in the aggregate on the outside. And basically it was at that time that WorkStep was born.
No, that's very good background, and it helps me and a lot of others understand where you guys come from and how you got to where you are today to get this thing launched. In regards to WorkStep's journey and sort of the evolution, before we think forward, I think it'll really be helpful to take a quick look back at WorkStep's journey and how that's brought us the product that you have today. So, Dan, can you talk a little bit about that, about WorkStep being founded, maybe more specifically, why do you do what you do and why specific to the engagement space?
Yeah, Les, I think that's a really important question, right? Why does the product, the technology that we provide, AI-enabled employee engagement, advance our mission of making the frontline a better place to work? And of course, you know this in your role, but traditionally frontline teams, those who keep our stores, factories, and warehouses humming, are relatively unheard within their organization and maybe more critically, underutilized when it comes to making business decisions. And the result of this for an organization is higher turnover, lower job satisfaction, more safety and unionization risk. But employee engagement done right can help solve those problems by making every employee feel more like a teammate and really fundamentally like their company cares what they think and gives back as much to them as they put into their company. Ultimately, employee engagement tech can help to collapse the distance between those doing the job and those who make the decisions that impact them from a leadership role, from corporate, etc.
I always say I'm a business leader first with the HR expertise. So when you were talking about improved safety and the different business results and things like that, that's really music to my ears. This is a mission in space that's near and dear to me because of all those things that you just mentioned. Justin, I'm going to turn to you for a second. And I'm curious if you could share a little bit more about why you both felt this space was right for disruption. There's a lot of different players in this space, but you and I both know that a lot of what they do is similar. So why did you feel it was right for disruption? And really, when it comes to different solutions that are meaningful to what I do, and really to hear all those team members and
Yeah.
employees that are out there.
I mean, if you think about the goals that Dan's laying out, right? And then you look at some of the most popular incumbent players in the space, they're really not serving any of those key needs, very directly or very well. The traditional engagement program probably looks something like an annual, maybe a biannual enterprise-wide survey. There's tons of questions. These exercises are a heavy lift and they take months to analyze the information, disseminate the results or the insights. The action plans that are going to result from those insights are generic in the end, and they're going to be delayed, from the feedback that they were trying to address in the first place. I think that practitioners in the engagement space know about these deficiencies of the, status quo of workforce engagement, but the struggle is that deploying an updated strategy with these legacy tools and systems it's hard, it's fraught. So to be successful, right, in adapting and modernizing, enterprises really need a technology solution that's purpose built for these more modern strategies. And that's why WorkStep is different. It's a technology that's going to foster a much more effective listening and engagement exercises by being more personal, operating more continuously, tying that feedback and sentiment to the outcomes that matter, the bottom line.
I'd love to build a bit on what Justin is saying here, because I think the engagement space is actually moving forward quite quickly in a really exciting direction. Historically, employee engagement software is essentially a digital adaptation of an historical traditional paper survey process, right? HR teams design and manage a one-size-fits-all survey, manually analyze results, and prod leaders to build action plans. But software has made that process more accessible, more efficient, but hasn't fundamentally improved the impact yet. So what we have to ask ourselves as technology leaders is, how should this work? How would an ideal employee feedback to leadership action loop look in 5 years or 10 years or with no technology constraints at all? And it's clear when you look through that lens that first, everything should be hyper personalized, right? Surveys should be perfectly tailored to every recipient based on their experience so you can extract the most relevant information with as little effort as possible. Leaders should receive highly personalized insights, not generic dashboards, so they know exactly what matters and what to do next. Automation should take all the busy work out of survey management, survey creation, and analysis so that leaders spend no time crafting surveys, almost no time analyzing their results, and more time doing what they do best, which is leading. And third and finally, employee engagement and feedback needs to be integrated into core business operations instead of being something that is siloed on the side and often a distraction from moving the business forward. In the near future, employee feedback, employee engagement will be directly connected to the systems where work happens, because that's where it can have the best and most impact on the business itself.
I think you guys have been sneaking and looking at my wish list that I have when it comes to engagement, because as a leader of HR, it's just really exciting for me. And it sounds like a different way to think about engagement and creating a more engaged workforce, especially when you're talking about individualized and for that team member, but also for that leader and helping them as well. So with that top of mind, can you maybe expand just a little bit more on how you're going to move that vision forward? Because that's something that is exciting that a lot of people will look forward to.
We're proud at WorkStep that we've made huge strides in the last 18 months. And overall, we can see that the engagement market has moved with us in adopting core tenets like frontline accessibility, continuous listening, and operations leadership buy-in to the overall employee listening and engagement process. We want to push the market next, like Justin said, is in the direction of real-time action and engagement that is fundamentally tied to impact. So what does that journey look like, right? Historically, employee engagement has been mostly about creating visibility for leaders, right? The ability to understand the sentiment and key topics in different pockets of your workforce and measure those trends over time. Today, there's a major transition from observation or visibility to guidance, to be able to have a co-pilot that's there with you that can show every leader not just what's happening, but where should they focus and what could or should they do next in terms of a response action. From there, guidance will flow to automation, where not only can the technology tell you where to focus, tell you what you could do, but it actually can start taking actions on a leader's behalf to A, take work off their plate, but B, collapse the time between feedback and action response.
Again, you guys are just making me excited around all these different things. Can you tell us a little bit more about the innovation this year around guidance?
We'll break it out a bit. If 2025 is going to be this year of the leadership co-pilot, we think about that as like a few different supporting categories for the functionality that we're delivering this year. First is surface, right? You got to identify the opportunities for a leader to act. And then you coach that leader toward the right actions. And finally, of course, from a high level perspective, you want an ROI calculation on this program. So what is the bottom line impact organizationally or at the enterprise level when everyone is taking the actions that make a difference? Let me give you a sample of what some of these features look like that tie to these categories as far as surfacing actionable insights. What we're looking at is our Comment Insights feature. Quantitative data, of course, is good for benchmarking, tracking things over time, but qualitative data is where we see a real gold mine in terms of actionability.
It's so often, especially nowadays with all the variety of tools of Chat GPT, and again, going back to Excel and other things, that leaders are trying to do this sort of work on their own. I love seeing the insights and the fact that when it comes to supervisors in the field, when it comes to managers, they are on the go. So they don't have time to really sit down and do this. And they're utilizing some of those new tools
Yes.
improperly too. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on all of that?
I mean, that's right? Because not only do you not want your leaders trying to do this on their own, is tedious, but I want to point out that I think our technical strategy here is really unique for the kind of categorization of themes. It's important because we're not just picking predetermined categories and then bucketing each piece of feedback into sort of the best fit. We're actually using clustering algorithms, which allows us to surface very dynamic and nuanced themes that emerge as they emerge, even outside, right, of what anybody could have predicted in say, like predefined categories. So, that's when you know what specific themes are emerging, when and where, you can then drive better actions. We'll use our suggested actions feature to automatically surface the best opportunities to take action based on those emerging themes.
The more that we can make it easier for those leaders and for those leaders to take action, because the worst thing you could do is ask questions and not take action. That makes the impact on the employees that are there too.
I think that's precisely right, Les. And what gets me personally really excited here is the idea that we're bringing these tactical, dynamic, battle-tested suggestions to leaders at every level. We're giving our customers, most junior leaders, the coaching and guidance they need to behave more like senior leaders, right? And we're helping leaders move more efficiently and effectively through the process of digesting their feedback and taking action as a result.
Lastly here, just want to cover the ability to measure the impact holistically of the actions taken. So our action tracker feature, how better to judge this than being able to see all of the insights made available across the org. What actions were suggested? What actions were taken? And in the end, do these things move the needle? And to me, this is exciting because it really opens up the potential for sort of these meta level insights about employee engagement, about what's working for leaders, where do they need maybe improvement in their leadership strategies, and so on.
One of the things that really resonated with me was leveling up. And I know when I speak to a lot of my peer CHROs, that's one of the things is how do you get those leaders to level up to be leaders instead of playing down in the organization? This is great. We've looked at where you've come from, what's happening today. Let's look at the future. So, loving the look of the roadmap and already imagining what this could look like for HR and operations leaders when they have this really at their fingertips. So, Dan, I'm wondering if you could help paint a picture of what all this looks like once it all comes together.
Yeah, I think that's really important because while all of these individual technology features and capabilities look good on their own or sound compelling on their own, it's much more important to think about how they all work together, right? For a user, for a leader in the real world, and paint the picture of what that world looks like for somebody like you, or a VP underneath you, or a director underneath them, or just a store leader in the field. And you talked a little bit before about how nobody's excited to use Excel anymore. But I think it's also true that the death of the dashboard in general is long overdue, right? No leader wants one more dashboard to log into. I know that I don't. They have plenty and probably too many as it is. But every great leader wants to know what their workforce is seeing and feeling and what opportunities they have for their business. They want to know across their full workforce what to pay attention to today and what to do about it. And rather than a
Mhm.
dashboard, they want an assistant, right? They want a co-pilot who helps them be the best version of themselves. So, for example, when a time sensitive safety comment comes in from my Portland warehouse, I want to know that right away. And I want to be able to get back to that teammate quickly to show them that I'm listening and help me get to the bottom of what's happening. And when there is a
Yeah.
sudden surge in feedback regarding scanner reliability in one of my segments, even if an individual comment on this topic wouldn't be top priority, I want to know how often that's coming up and where it's coming from, and critically, what I should do about it. But engagement isn't just about acting on the feedback that comes in. Engagement done right is also about communicating proactively and effectively. So if a store in my scope has seen a huge lift in both employee net promoter score and customer net promoter score, they're clearly doing something right. And I, as a leader, want to let them know and celebrate that achievement so we can create those positive reinforcement cycles as well. And so, what we've seen here is as a leader, in 5 minutes, I have digested information, made decisions, and taken actions that have made my workplace safer, made my workforce more efficient, and also made my overperforming teammates feel appreciated.
I can't wait to hear and see this co-pilot in action. So with that, that wraps up our conversation for the day. Dan, Justin, thank you. The work and the journey that you're on is very important to me and my CHRO peers, the leaders that are leading lots of people each and every day, and most importantly, that team member that is out doing the work, touching the work, driving business each and every day. So thank you for WorkStep's mission and what we can expect from you this year and years to come.